Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Munoz, CEO of Experience Agency The Flash. Each week, I bring another business leader, entrepreneur, or genuinely awesome person who's doing some game-changing work. And this episode is no different. I am so excited to have Melissa Mitchner, who's the CEO and founder of the Bark Shoppe, and also the winner of the She for All pitch competition that was held virtually just a few weeks ago. She's got a phenomenal story. It's going to be a great conversation. And as a small business owner who's had to pivot and navigate this wacky, weird time of the coronavirus, we're going to find out about what she was able to do successfully. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Melissa.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going good. Good day today.
Getting work done. I got you. So even though, we are recording from, different places because we're in the middle of the pandemic, the podcast does not change. And the first question is always the same. So Melissa, what was your first job?
So my first and only job was working at Best Buy, retail company. And I got that job straight out of high school. And I started as a line level associate. And then I was able to continue to get promoted. And I left the company as a district administrative assistant.
And what did you learn while you were at Best Buy, other than getting the discounts for like iPhones?
So Best Buy really taught me how to run a business. At the time working in the company, they were very competitive. We did not get any commission. So they really taught us like KPIs, the foundational excellence, core values. And we ran our departments as if they were our own companies. So that was my first introduction to quote unquote business school. I didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur necessarily then, but because we always went over our metrics and we always had scorecards and things like that, that kind of helped me transition when I decided to open my company.
Interesting. So you learned all the things you should do, but also the things you shouldn't do.
Yes.
And so you go from being at Best Buy to then starting a business. I heard your story, but I'd love for you to share your stories, like how you got to start Bark Shoppe and how you navigated all these years.
Yeah, so anyone that works in corporate, they know there's always a reorg, every year, and they did a reorganization of the company. And I decided like the very last day that I was going to take the severance package because I didn't want to go back into the store. I felt as though I worked so hard to get to the position that I was in, and I was in school, getting my degree in middle and high school education. So you know what? I'm just going to take the severance package. I've been working for like 9 years straight. Let me just, I can take the severance, focus on school, do that. And I was at home actually watching a reality hair show on my way to class called Chicagolicious. It's a human hair show, not a pet hair show. And there was this episode when this woman was saying like where she took her dog, how much she loved it. And I was like, that's really interesting. And I was really intrigued. So when I got to class, I started looking up the industry and I saw like it kept growing. It was recession proof. So that was in May. I had $70,000 saved in my savings account. And I was like, I think I'm going to do this.
Hold up. How old were you?
I was 26 at the time.
And you saved $70,000.
Yes. So I grew up. Okay. My circumstances were a little different, right? Living in New York. So I grew up in the projects in the South Bronx. I didn't have expensive rent. I didn't really have any really high expenses. So I was always trained by my grandmother who raised me to save. So I always saved my check. I would split it in 3 ways, like portion to my 401k, some to my savings, and then, whatever money I just had to, do whatever I want to do. I was 26. I had this great job. I was making a lot of money at the time. I had a corporate car, corporate laptop. So I was just saving a lot of money. I was living at home. So I had $70,000 in my savings and I had another like 60 in my 401k. And I was like, I'm going to do this. My family thought I was having a nervous breakdown because I never grew up with dogs, right? I never grew up with dogs. I didn't know anything about pets. Never owned a pet. But I saw the opportunity and I was like, I can do this. And so I saw that in May. I walked in Harlem from 135th Street to 110th Street, every avenue, because I knew I didn't want to be past 135th Street. I signed a lease in June. I enrolled in grooming school in June. the New York School of Dog Grooming. I grand opened in July, and 8 years later, here we are. So, yeah.
Girl, so when is this Lifetime movie about your story coming out? Or or a happy version of Unsung? 'Cause well, one, I think it's, this is validating, full disclosure, I was one of the judges at She for All, so part of the reason that Melissa is on the show is this was one of the prizes. But I heard your story, and I'm like, I know he's leaving out some of the story. And like, this is like, because I'm like, you don't just walk in somewhere and magically go buy a lease. So you just like, I'm just going to figure this out.
Yeah, I think, so one, it was stepping out on faith. And I had met with my family, my grandmother, my mom, and my friends. And everybody's like, where is this coming from? Like, you're not even going to pick up poop or pee. And I was like, no, I've seen the industry. Like, this is what Harlem needs. The communities are changing. Like, the time is now. And I think because everyone thought I was so crazy, and I had so many people, I would say it was 50-50, right? Like, it was my money. So no one could technically say like what I could do. But the only thing that my family wanted was like, you have to finish school. Like, you have to get your degree. You've been sidetracked with Best Buy. I was making more money than a teacher. So the first year that I actually opened my business, I was running back and forth to the Bronx, to Lehman College. Like, I would leave work for 2 hours, go to class. My groomer would like watch the store. I would forward the calls to my cell phone and then come back. I had my graduation party at my shop. So like the first year, I don't know how I made it through, but I did.
You did.
And I just said, I saw the opportunity. And I think because so many people were saying it couldn't be done, I was like, I'm going to show you. Watch this. And I just learned everything. Like, I immersed myself in dog grooming school. I was going day and night because I wanted to finish faster and get my certificate. I knew that I wouldn't be grooming full time, but I wanted to learn the business because I was going into an industry I didn't know anything about. Like, I didn't know anything about pets. I didn't know anything about grooming. And I was like, I just want to learn this so that when I work with people, they know that I'm invested. Because I think a lot of times people open businesses and they don't know anything about the industry. So I was like, no one's going to get over on me. I'm a young woman in business. And at that time, I was so afraid of like even telling people it was my company. So like the running joke was I was the receptionist. Like, oh, there's this really nice receptionist. And then like my friends would be like, no, she's the owner. Like, because I thought about my grandmother, and she never banked or did business with young people. She was like, they're not responsible. So I was like, this could work for me or this could work against me. And then fast forward, I was talking with someone. I'm like, yeah, I'm the owner. And they were like, you need to tell more people your story. Like,
absolutely.
More people need to know this is something to aspire to. And I always knew like I want to become a pillar in the community because me having my own business, growing up in the South Bronx, I grew up in an area where the average income maybe was $20,000 for the year. So being able to, come from Mitchell Projects in the South Bronx, I went to Hostos Community College. I went to Lehman College. I got accepted to the Columbia Community Business Program, which really helped me. Like, I'm walking in the halls of Columbia Business School. Like, I'm in Uris Hall with like some of the best professors in the world. I thought that was important for me to share. And as a person of color in this industry, I account for 4% in a $96 billion industry, 4% of ownership. So I wanted people to see like it could be done. You'll be amazed what you could create in 90 days, right? Because literally I did this in 90 days. Yes, it's been 8 years, but I just jumped in, and I think there was no plan B. So plan A had to work,
Of course. That's what happens. You just dive in.
Yeah. And my friends were like, you could buy a house. Like, are you crazy? That's the down payment on a house. And I'm just like, it's okay. I believe in myself,
Also, you made that money once, you'll make it again.
Again, that's right.
So here you are 9 years later, and tell us about what Bark Shoppe is today.
Yeah, so the Bark Shoppe is a premier pet care facility. We specialize in grooming, boarding, daycare, dog walking, and we offer self-service. We were the first self-service salon in Harlem where you can wash your own dog. Now we are really focusing on grooming and continuing to grow our grooming business and launching our own mobile truck. So the DMV should be opening soon by next month. So our first truck can get on the road. We want to impact and serve more communities throughout New York before growing nationwide. And I think so. When we spoke in the pitch, something that's really near and dear to my heart is that I partner with a lot of community and nonprofit organizations that help at-risk youth get job readiness skills and learn about the pet care industry. So I'm very passionate about attracting people to the industry. I also graduated from an alternative high school, so I partnered with the Board of Ed, and I'm a vendor with the Board of Ed to help attract kids that are in alternative high schools. So we make mock business models, mock dog walking companies, grooming companies, just so that I can get kids excited from high school about this trade. Because what I found is that it's an industry that you don't know what you don't know, right? So people don't typically realize that, $6 billion a year is spent on pet care services, whether it's veterinary, grooming, dog walking. And, if my grandmother was alive and I said, I'm spending $7,000 to go to grooming school, she probably would say, are you crazy? But not understanding that groomers will make that 10 times over within 10 weeks. So just exposing more people to the industry, and, maybe you can't be a vet, but you could be a dog walker or a groomer or a dog handler. And it's something that you have to love what you do. It's creativity all the time. You get different dogs. And the social emotional component, I think when I'm dealing with a lot of young kids from many different backgrounds and circumstances, the happiness that dog brings to them is somewhat like a therapy, and I've worked with, some of the toughest kids. And by the end of the internship, they're like, I love you. I love the Bark Shoppe. This is my family. These dogs make me so happy. So that's where we are today, and continuing to grow. And I'm pitching to investors, and, we have a curriculum built because it's such a huge opportunity in the industry, and it's growing very fast.
So it's interesting. And thank you so much for sharing. I'm just blown away by you.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because I think, as a Black female founder, in an industry that's not something that you would think you'd typically find Black women running, much less Black women who were, when you started, you were under 30. Mm-hmm. Did you have any challenges along that neck of the woods of people trusting you with their dogs, or only people in Harlem, only Black people want to work with you versus white folks? How that, I know that universe is kind of crazy.
So I will say we have a very diverse group of clientele. I'm in a very mixed demographic. So if I go one block east, I have people that are on a set income that I know want to do right by their dog. And I can go one block west where, people have disposable income. For me, I'm very passionate about, I don't care if you spend $1 or you don't have to spend any money. But when you walk through our doors, we want you to feel that love, and I want you to feel important, and I want you to know that I see you. Because I've been in the spaces where I've been overlooked, right? So when I first opened, I had people ask me, who do you work for? And I said, I don't work for anyone. I actually have one of the top 10 salons in New York City. We've been featured by the Huffington Post. So I want everyone to feel good about their experience with us. I want you to know that you're family, you're welcomed. I wouldn't necessarily say I've gotten any backlash or anything like that. In the beginning, I think people in the community thought that it wasn't a Black owned company. And I still get those questions now, like, who owns this company? I'm like, it's me, it's me. I want you to feel good. Yeah, it's mine. And I think that when I first got into the community, people didn't think that I opened for them. And I was very on purpose about that. I opened because I don't want you to leave your community for the services that you deserve, right? I thought about myself. So I worked on the Upper East Side, 86 and Lex. I did everything on the Upper East Side. But as I got older and I started thinking about, social economics and how many times does this dollar circulate in my community? Do I buy in my community? Do I invest in my community? I wanted people to know, I opened for you. It's not a white thing. It's not a Black thing. This is a people thing. This is a service thing. And I push that really now. We do community barbecues. We have a book exchange, continuing to build that community, because I feel like the dogs, they do bridge everyone. It doesn't matter if you're Black or white. Those 4 paws unite everyone, so I want to get people excited about that and welcomes. We partner with a lot of, other businesses in the neighborhood. We've made doggy ice cream. Awesome. Yeah, we partner with Sugar Hill Creamery. We've made doggy ice cream. because it's just it feels good. And I always say I'm going to do this as long as it feels great, because you just meet so many different people from all walks of life. And like the common thing is the pets.
Awesome. And so obviously with this pandemic hitting, I'm sure it affected your business. How were you able to sort of stop, pivot, reassess, and then keep going?
So when the pandemic first began, I was very torn about closing, right? And then I was like, when they started saying like things were going to get really worse, I was like, we can't risk our lives for dogs, right? So we closed. We were closed for over 2 months. It was very hard, but I made a decision, one, to stay calm as a leader, and I needed my team to see like I have this under control. So actually that Friday, when this all like started getting crazy, I was supposed to go to Atlanta for a pet conference. I was speaking. And I said, they said, if you don't feel comfortable coming, don't come. And I said, I'm not going to come. It wasn't that I didn't necessarily feel comfortable. I needed my staff to see that I was in control and I was calm, so I could transfer that energy to them and that we could plan. So from that Friday, we were like, okay, we're going to take on as many dogs as we can, all money in, because nobody thought about not being paid. I have some contractors too, and freelancers. So they never thought about like, oh, we'll be closed for this amount of time and not making money. So I quickly came up with that plan. I called my other friends that are entrepreneurs and local Harlem business owners, like, hey, we may get knocked down, but we're not going to hit the ground. Like, let's figure out what we need to do to get through this, start filling out grants. And really, I used that time while we were off, one, to like reconnect with my family. Because although I'm 33 years old, I make a lot of sacrifices. I'm not at every family event. I have a 17-year-old sister. I don't see my mom a lot. So we started cooking. I started thinking about all the things that I wanted to accomplish if I had more time in a day. So then I was like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do that. So I started like creating those things. I really wanted to focus on content, connect with our clients more, really give them information. I found in all of this, like, so if pre-COVID, you never saw me on the Bark Shoppe's page. You never saw me doing like Instagram lives or like any of that stuff. But I found that in this decal, I got a decal on my wall in my bedroom. And I was like, we're going to start doing live videos. Like, this is the time. Like, we're going to come out of this strong. Millionaires were made, out of the recession and things like that. So what was the message I wanted to send to my clients? What was the message I wanted to send to my team? And then really just like a hammer to the nail. And then I found that me being still, that's when opportunities came. Because had I been open, I wouldn't have been able to do She for All. Or, we were on Good Morning America, preparing for all of these things, WPIX. I wouldn't have been able to prepare for that because I would have been so consumed with operating and running the business. So I think timing was everything. And then, having that solid faith in God and the universe and just, everything coming together. And it was just like, just take it day by day, one step at a time, and it's worked out for me because I really got to look at my business from different angles, cutting services that, were no longer necessary with online or booking and, really looking at my bottom line and saying, okay, what can I cut out and how could we use this money in different ways? Or, cash is king. How much money do we have in reserve? Thankfully, I look at that line sheet 4 times before I approve anything. So I was like, okay, how can we make it through the next 18 to 24 months? Because we don't know what it's going to look like. And I've been blessed with great staff and great clients, new clients, old clients that are like, we want to support you. Whenever you reopen or whatever you do, we're here for you. So that it's been great. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude.
Awesome. And I have to say that I'm not surprised because it sounds like you've got like the fierce desire to make it happen, which is always intended for a founder, especially a Black woman founder. Because if you want to turn $1 to $15, ask a Black woman to do it because she will. And let Fabulous do it. No, that's fantastic. So what's going to be next for you guys? So you mentioned during the pitch that you guys are now going to go into the mobile grooming side of the universe. What's happening there?
So we're launching and scaling our mobile trucks. Really, so mobile grooming being the frontier of grooming, so that allows us to serve more communities and neighborhoods faster, and with a less overhead. So we're really focusing on that, launching the mobile grooming aspect while maintaining our brick and mortar, and educating our clients. I think now is the best time, because what I've also learned in COVID is like, no one knew how to do anything at home, myself included, right? Like I had to learn how to do my own hair, my nails, things like that. So how can we teach you how to maintain your dog at home so that when we do open back up, you can have the haircut that you want? So like I always tell our clients, put the scissors down. You are not a groomer, right? But I can walk you through how to brush and comb and maintain your dog's hair. We can ship you our products. So it was a really learning point for me, because like our product sold out the next day after Good Morning America. And then, we have a Patreon. So launching that Patreon, which is a platform that allows you to subscribe to our services. We have, as low as $1 up to $10 a month, and us just giving you more information. And really the Bark Shoppe becoming, when you think about pet grooming, you think about the Bark Shoppe, that we're invested, that we're trustworthy, we're professionals, and just attracting more people into the industry, particularly more people of color, right? Because when you go to Petco and PetSmart, the people of color and minorities, Black, Hispanic, brown people, we are driving these multi-billion-dollar companies, but there's no plan in place for us to become our own owners. And that's something that I learned at Best Buy. There was a plan in place for us. I always say iron sharpens iron. Everyone that I started with from my orientation now are either at Best Buy as district managers, general managers, or work in other great companies as general managers, district managers. So there was a plan in place for us to continue to grow. And that's how I operate my business, right? Like if we are in the same position that we were a year ago, something is wrong. I'm failing you. And I really drive that. And like, that's the first thing I ask when someone comes in, in an interview is like, what is your 1-year plan? What is your 3-year plan? What do you see yourself in 5 years? Because I always say start with the end in mind now, because I didn't have a plan when I opened. I just jumped in and I was like, I'm going to make it happen. But as I went to Colombia, I thought about my business on a national scale. We launched our pet products and, we did rebranding. I changed the name of the business because I realized I don't want to be restricted to Harlem. I want to take this to the world. I travel internationally, and the first thing I look for is where are the pet groomers? Where are the vets? Wherever you go in the world, Australia has the second largest dog market. South Africa has a huge dog market. Europe, dogs are everywhere. So who's going to take care of these dogs when you're traveling or in these other countries? So that was the first thing I thought about globally. Like, I want to go national and then I want to go global. By nature, I'm a visionary. I think big. It may take me longer to get there. Yes, I'm a Black woman. I'm self-funded. The banks are not always like, hey, we want to give you money. That was a learning experience for me. I'm like, do you see my revenue? Like, you offered me $25,000. I have that on my own credit card, on a business credit card. What could that do for me? So really figuring out, where I want to grow the company, what direction I want to go in, and then just focus on that. And it may take me longer, right? There may be other companies that pop up, but just being faithful and committed to my mission. So service and serving dogs, but also service in the community and allowing people the opportunity to enter an industry that they don't necessarily know about.
Phenomenal. Talk to you all day. That's fantastic. So, looking back on what you've been able to accomplish in, 8 years, because I know, it's a long road and it's a struggle. What would you tell 21-year-old Melissa?
I would tell 21-year-old Melissa, it's going to be okay. Have faith in yourself and just get started. It's never going to look like what you want it to look like. The most important part is getting in the game. Because I often look back and I said, wow, if I knew this, when I was in high school, maybe I would have become a vet. Or if I knew this was the path I was going to go down, I would have, started a lot sooner. And now I'm realizing, like I'm reading articles in Fast Company and Inc. magazine, and there's 14-year-old kids, running these multi-million-dollar companies with lollipops and things like that. So the sooner you figure out what it is, and it doesn't mean that this is going to be your end all be all, but just start, try it out, see what works. Don't worry about affirmations from other people. Have your plan. Like my grandma always tells me, have your plan and work your plan. That's it. So that's what I would say. It's going to work out. Just get started and try and fail forward, because, there's going to be a lot of failures, but you just keep going.
I think that, and that's the thing here. I mean, like, look, being an entrepreneur is not for the weak. Mm. and if risk is not your middle name, then you should not do it.
Right.
Because you live in a land of uncertainty, and so it takes a special type of person to be able to do that, and also being able to, go with the flow. You will fail, just fail and put one foot in front of the other and keep going and not stopping, because the thing is, like, if your gut's telling you to go that way, you're gonna go that way, and it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And it's so important. So
and
now,
be curious. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, be curious and ask questions. Because I think that also, I'm naturally curious by nature. Like, I always want to look up stuff and read about things. I'm always looking at, other people's business models and like, how could I implement that? But I also ask questions, right? And ask for what you need and what you want. Because I think that what I've found in the last 2 years is that the universe was just waiting for me to step up and get comfortable and ask for what I needed. And as soon as I was clear about what I wanted, what I needed, people just rose to that, and I literally asked some of my clients to help me with things. And they're like, yeah, like venture capital is a whole new world to me. And, I'm self-funded, so I'm constantly reading things, but also asking like, oh, hey, you work in finance, you work on these type of deals. Like, what does that look like? What are the things that need to be in place? And just, constantly asking questions and learning. I always say I'm a student of life. You never stop learning.
Of course not. Hell no. And so, okay, never stop learning. You're working really hard. However, this is a very unusual time for everybody. And it's really important to take care of ourselves. So, Melissa, what are you doing for your self-care?
So, I've been embracing my natural hair. Because prior, my schedule was so busy. I always wore like a lot of wigs and things like that. So, a twist out and a mask for me with a good playlist is always great. I listen to a lot of books. Right now I'm listening to The $1 Million Woman by Judith Pisner, I think is her name.
Oh, Julia tells me, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm listening to that, which is great. So, a good twist out with my hair products, a good mask on, and just listening to a good book, walking, so just taking time for myself to just walk. I find I come up with so many good ideas on like a very good walk. Of course, social distancing, but a good walk. Some good coffee always makes me feel great. So, that's what I've really been focusing on. In the past, self-care is very important to me. So I think something else that people don't talk about, every 2 weeks, I have a standing appointment with my therapist, right? Because as an entrepreneur, you take on other people's problems and just figuring things out. And like, it's a lot of stress. I wouldn't say it's so much anxiety, but for me, it's just like, I need a sounding board to speak to. I'm also the first woman in my family to do things on this scale. Like, there's been other entrepreneurs, but I would be the first woman in my family to exit, have a company that's exited and sold, or, things like that. So there's pressure in that. I'm an older sister. I'm a daughter. I'm a granddaughter. My grandmother's 83 years old. So just ensuring that we have that quality time to speak. She's my best friend, so we speak multiple times a day. So that's what self-care looks like for me, hanging out with my friends, just talking on the phone. And not all of my friends are entrepreneurs. So I have, different groups of friends, and being able to just be, and literally we could not be doing anything, but it feels like everything.
I love that. That's perfect. Yes. I mean, it's hard because like it's such a crazy time, and you're like, all right, but re-embracing the phone call when you pick up the phone and like tell somebody.
Right.
It's like, hey, how are you? For real. Actually have a conversation. These things are important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so very important. I mean, Melissa, I continue to be inspired and in awe of what you've been able to do. And you have a fan and a supporter.
Thank you so much.
Because only there is no limit for you in terms of what you're going to build, and I can see franchises of like Bark Shoppes knocking out Petco's in every major city. So I see it. I'm claiming it.
Thank you.
So I know it's going to happen for you. And so the last question is if you have a give and or an ask of our audience.
So my give would just be to offer myself to have real conversations. I think a lot of times when we hear about the journey of entrepreneurship with founders, I really want to start speaking and instilling in the youth, like there is no overnight success, right? It took 8 years to the things that you typically see. And also, so I serve on the junior board with the Food Bank of New York, and I'm really looking to do more community partnerships and just really be honest and truthful about what this journey takes, and it's hard work, but giving myself and just volunteering, you know, in whatever capacity, however I'm able to help. I think that's so important because I wouldn't be who I am without the people that invested in me. So that's one of my gives. I hope that, you know, that's great. And then my ask is to, you know, I'm currently fundraising. We are looking to continue to grow our brand. I'm looking to take on advisors, people that have, you know, experience with marketing, branding, fundraising, capital, introductions with venture capital, because I now know what it takes to grow and scale a company. And I understand the vision for the Bark Shoppe, and I want us to go national. I understand the industry. I'm not unlike my competitors. You know, I actually worked in the industry, so I understand it from both sides, the business side and the creative side. I see the opportunities in the industry. I see where we can go and grow and where we are going. Because by 2025, it's going to be a $230 billion industry. You know, millennials like myself, we're not having children, we're getting dogs. So there's so much more opportunity. So definitely, you know, anyone who's listening, if they feel like they could benefit myself in the Bark Shoppe, definitely reach out to us. Again, my email is melissa@thebarkshoppe.com, and it's melissa@thebarkshoppe.com. And I'm just grateful for this opportunity. Thank you for voting for me. Thank you for having me on your show. And I'm excited. I'm excited about the journey of the Bark Shoppe and where we are going post-COVID.
Awesome. And I know a gazillion people who can help you, my darling. So we'll chat. But Melissa, like I said, you know, it's always, you know, you're part of the reason I do this show. And, you know, I deliberately try and shine a light on people who are doing the work and who are still busy. They don't have a chance to like talk about what they do. So I am, you know, honored to have met you, and I hope to meet you in person soon when this is over and this is over, because I just, you know, I'm just so impressed by what you've been able to build, and yeah, you're gonna go so far. So thank you for telling your story.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. And that is our show.